Among these mountains, there's a war going on, the war for the hearts and minds of Afghanistan. Only this one is taking place thousands of miles away from the troubled country, in the middle of the Mojave Desert in California.
It's clear.
And here, like in Afghanistan, female soldiers are taking on an important new role in that effort.
Can you just let them know that I need to search him, but we're going to go over here on an area?
Here at the National Training Center in Fort Irwin, California, a select group of 19 women known as the Female Engagement Team, or FET, is undergoing the last stage of training before heading to Afghanistan early next year with the South Carolina Army National Guard. Their task? To be the point of contact with Afghan women, because for cultural reasons, they're not allowed to interact with men outside of their family. And in the process, they get crucial information in the Army's counterintelligence efforts.
Your interpreter comes back around. If they're comfortable with you, you can start asking them questions like, hey man, where were you going? You know, is there anyone in your village that's not usually there?
This is the first time the South Carolina Army National Guard, an all-male infantry battalion, has a female engagement team attached to their unit. But this is not the first time that female engagement teams have been used during this war. They were first implemented with the Marines in Iraq in 2003, and based on their gains, all forces were instructed to create their own teams in 2009.
Sometimes the men, they see us as, you know, why are the females part of the infantry now? But for them, they're starting to realize that we're an asset to them.
An asset because it allows the Army to communicate with Afghanistan's other half of the population, women. And this key new role of female soldiers is prompting the U.S. military to reevaluate its own policy, which has officially banned women from combat since 1993.
The truth is the truth. American females are on the front lines. The American populace know this. They're on the front lines and they're doing the same thing and fighting the same war equally as the American male soldier.
The role of female soldiers like Scarlett is not only limited to learning the skills to gather information from Afghan women. If the infantry company they belong to comes under fire, they have to respond with the same stamina as the male soldiers, and they learn those skills here at the National Training Center.
The box, as it's known among soldiers, is a 1,000-square-mile compound almost the size of Rhode Island, with 13 villages scattered throughout, replicating the sounds, smells, and look of Afghan villages.
How close is the National Training Center to the conditions that you find once you get to Afghanistan?
The terrain is almost equal, the same as in Afghanistan. It gives our soldiers the training to deal in the environment of Afghanistan, similar, to see the size of the many small villages in Afghanistan and dealing with Afghan populace there who do not speak their language and have a culture different from ours.
The training here at National Training Center is very vital to establishing the FET, the Female Engagement Team, in the company level. Prior to this point, the female engagement teams were trained separately. Had everyone together, we trained as a group. So here at National Training Center, they're learning to be cohesive as a female engagement team, but they're also learning to be cohesive as part of their company.
And Sergeant Scarlett Martinez knows the Army routine well. This is her third deployment, but it's her first with the female engagement team, and her first as a mother. Her 3-year-old daughter, Amaya, is back at home with her parents in Florida.
Yes.
How are you dealing with that?
It gets difficult. Sometimes you have to sacrifice in order to get something better in the future. And that's what I'm doing for me and my daughter. But it's very difficult.
And for Scarlett, that sacrifice means the possibility of saving enough money for a down payment for a house. But it's also a chance to be a part of a world that has been off limits to women in the military.
Traditionally, female soldiers are in a support role, so this gives us an opportunity to actually link up and be attached to the infantry units and go on these missions to engage the local women.
Women's rights groups and lawmakers argue that the current combat exclusion policy prevents female soldiers, who now make up 15% of the U.S. Armed Forces, from advancing up the chain of command as combat experience is necessary for certain positions. The Department of Defense is currently reviewing the women's combat exclusion policy and is expected to deliver a report later in the year.
Is it time for the U.S. government to officially allow female soldiers to fight in the front lines?
Female soldiers have proven themselves to understand the complexities of battle and have the toughness and physical fortitude to be able to fight side by side with their male counterpart. I would support the females on the front line.
In Fort Irwin, California, Sacha Preto, Univision News.